if Emerson does something or Jules does something, sometimes I'm just like, Amy, why didn't you, I'm right here. Why didn't you ask me? Like, I can help you with this. And that's what God is saying, like right now. He's like, I'm right here. If you would just acknowledge me and ask me, I would love to help you.
He's delighted to do it. He's not just like, yeah, I'll do it. He's delighted for us to talk to him. He's delighted to do it, just like we are for our kids, but so much more so.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and just waiting for us to ask.
Mm-hmm. Just waiting around. Like, he's here all the time. It's just a matter of if I acknowledge him or not. And that verse, I read it earlier, it's from James. And my note next to it literally says, like, verse 8, it's simple. It's simple. It's James 4:8. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to draw near to us because he's already right here. We just have to turn. We just have to literally, like, be aware, like, look and note and realize that his presence is here and has been the whole time. So all we have to do is ask, and he's like, Johnny on the spot, like, I'm here with you.
And I'm glad that I'm your go-to girl for prayer, but I was thinking, and I really haven't done my part either. And I've seen some good, little things people put on Facebook about, if we're washing our hands for 20 seconds, quit singing happy birthday, talk to God, pray for people for 20 seconds. What if we all just did that 20 seconds? Instead of looking on Netflix for 20 minutes on what to watch, like, and binge watching, we could take a little break. And I'm not heaping condemnation on people. We just forget sometimes. We're like, get caught up in what's going on and what we're doing and forgetting, like, I have a lot of extra time on my hands right now. I could really be doing something. I can't sew masks or anything, like that really cool stuff people are doing for the world, but I can pray. And we all have that. We all have it. Access, and it's free, like we said, and we forget about it all the time.
We do. We forget so often. And I like I said earlier, I 100% know that is a tactic of the enemy to diminish it and make us forget about it. And we get distracted. And, I talked to you about this earlier, that I feel like, we forget as Christians, or as maybe it's just in our culture with Jesus followers, we forget that we have to practice our faith.
Yeah.
It's a practice, it's not a one and done. It's not like, oh, I'm a Jesus follower and I'm perfect at it and I don't need to do anything. Like, they literally call it practicing your faith for a reason. And we forget that. And part of practicing our faith is prayer, and it's fasting. And man, when you put those two together, that's huge. But just in general, like, just prayer should be a practice of our faith that we're practicing all the time. And it doesn't have to be something that we do just in the morning. It doesn't have to be something that we do just right before bed and puts us to sleep. It's an engaging in conversation with our Heavenly Father, who can do way more than we can ask or think. And I was telling somebody the other day, like, I'm so guilty of this, of forgetting that my faith is something that I'm supposed to be practicing.
Mm-hmm.
And how, if it was an athlete, if they only practiced one time a year, they'd be a really weak athlete. They would not be ready to compete. And we're over here in a spiritual warfare, in a battle. This whole thing, it's a battle and it's spiritual warfare, and we're not practicing. That's not good. We're not like, we won't be ready if we're not practicing.
Yeah. And the benefit is not just to be like, get good at being a Christian or anything like that. It's the closeness that you have with God. And when you build that relationship with him, you begin to understand him so much more. And when we ask for things, we begin to understand his heart and how to ask, and the motives. And that verse I was sharing with you earlier, I'll read it again, but it's 1 John 5:14-15, and it says, "This is the confidence we have in approaching God, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, We know that we have what we asked of him. And it's hard to line your will up and your motives with someone that you don't know.
Yeah.
But the more you practice, the more you pray, the more you just take a little time to learn him and understand him and know him, because he desires that so much, the better you understand his heart. And so when we don't get our prayers answered, we know that even though we thought that was best, it wasn't what was best for us. We know that God has our best in mind, and we don't have to be hurt or feel like we just didn't deserve it or we did something wrong so he didn't grant it. We can just be content and know that that was what was best for us. And we have the verse, the Romans 8:28 verse, that says that he works all things to the good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so if we know that he's working all things to the good, we're praying, we're lining up with his will. If he answers it, that was for the best. If he doesn't, that was for the best. And I can go on about my day and I can live my life and stay positive and roll with the punches and know that whatever comes, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. As it's so true. It's our faith is like, our whole point is to love God, love people. But you can't love someone you don't know.
It's
And
hard.
and that's why we practice, because in coming to him consistently, in reading, in prayer, we get to know his heart. And that, when we come to him and we ask him these big things, we can have confidence, and we can know that if he does what we've asked him to do, awesome. And if he doesn't, we can trust that we know that he is good. We know his heart because we have spent time with him. But
Yeah.
if you don't spend time with him, you don't know him. And that's what leads you to questioning, who he is, and why did I even ask that? And why isn't he answering that? Well, he sees things from a much bigger scope than we can fathom.
Right.
But by spending time with him, by practicing our faith, by getting to know him and his heart, we can trust that when those things don't occur, it's because it's not the best.
Yeah. I think another thing, you were talking about just big and the scope that he has. Sometimes we forget, and like you said, we can't even fathom sometimes, that we forget to ask big because our worlds are so small. Our thoughts are so small, and we're like, I know this is a big request, or we don't even bother to ask at all, and this is a God who made the sun stand still. I mean, he can do anything, truly anything. And I don't think he's sitting up there when we come with big requests or like, God, I need this, or, being like, well, I can't believe you asked that of me. I think he chuckles and he's like, ask on, girl. That's a big one. Let's do this, and
Finally.
like he just delights in faith like that. Like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I came for. And so I've just been asking big lately, and I have my moments where I slack off and I get comfy and I forget. And like we said earlier, all's right in my world. So, hello, Lord, good morning, and go on about your day. So I'm going to, I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
He's just waiting. He's just waiting for us to ask.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, reminds me of Beth Moore. Like I told you earlier, Beth Moore said, if it's in the Bible, I'm going to ask for it. And so I was just like, yeah, girl, me too. Like, why not? Why the flip not? Like, if I ask for it and I don't get it, if I don't get it, it's not because I didn't ask for it. So I'm going to ask, like, if it's there, I don't care how big it is, I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
And
That's what you said. If I didn't get it, it's not because I didn't ask for it.
Exactly. If I didn't get it, it's not because I didn't ask for it. Like,
That's good.
I'm guilty of. I mean, I've told you this before. I felt like I needed something, and I asked God for a third of it. And I was like, okay, God, if you can just give me a third, I'll do my part and get the rest. thinking? Like, why? So that I can get the glory for it? What? No. So, you know what? If it's in the Bible, I'm going to ask for it. I want to hear God's voice. I want him to show up and scare the pee right out of me, because that's what would happen. But I'm going to ask for it. And if it doesn't happen, it's not because I didn't ask.
Yeah, I always tell the kids and even some of my friends at work, it's like, my motto is, it never hurts to ask. And it's like, that's such a great motto to have with God too. It doesn't hurt to ask.
It never hurts to ask. But I think that so many times we think it's like, we don't even think about asking. Like, it's not even a thought that we have. Like, prayer is not a go-to necessarily for those big things. You know, and I don't know why, other than distraction and just not thinking about it, but we just kind of get caught up in our day to day, and which I'm so guilty of, and we just don't even think to ask.
And you know, having little prayers answered is lovely and precious. But when you just ask something impossible of God, something just huge, and he answers it right down to the penny or to the moment or whatever the thing is, and you see that he has just so carefully paid attention to you and your need, or even just your want sometimes, it will bring you not even to your knees, like to your face, because you realize that he's so close and he loves you so much. And those are super special moments. And asking big helps you have those moments with God. And I think he doesn't just delight to give you the thing that you needed or wanted, but delights for you to have that moment with him so he can reveal himself to you and show you his love and his attentiveness to you. And I love that. I've had a lot of moments like that with God, and being human, I sometimes forget them, you know, as time goes on and your day and your mind gets cloudy. And but man, I think back to them, and I've started to journal them too, like you've talked about. And I read my journal from last year and I was like, wow, God. And it flooded me just to remember how good he was to me and is.
Yeah.